in front of the next door building in the Talmud Torah Magen David. Tiny young boy, full of love of Torah, was chosen by the great Gaon Hacham Matlub Abadi to represent the students of Talmud Torah Magen David. His name was Catton, and he said out loud, and twice he described to me word by word, as he is standing in front of the people of our community 82 years ago, and saying those words, Shir Ma'alot, Zechor Adonai LeDavid et kol unnoto, אשר נשבע לאדוני נדר לאביר יעקב אם אבוא באוהל ביתי אם אעלה על הערש יסועי אם אתן שנת לעיני לעפעפי תנומה עד אמצא מקום לאדוני משכנות לאביר יעקב. I won't relax. I won't have a normal sleep. I won't close my eyes till I will find a place that Borei Olam will dwell. His light is Shekhinah. 22 years ago, exactly after 60 years, I came for 1 week to a wedding of a very, very dear friend of mine, Mr. Joseph Harari. And he invited me home. And the classes of Sha'arei Sion was then his Dweich Alav Shalom. And before I left, he told me, I won't relax. I won't sleep till I'll bring you to this town to teach Torah. Ahaba v'Achva congregation, Magen David Tzilias's high school, the Rabbinical College, Allegra Franco Seminary, all my activities, if I did something, is because of Sam Catton, and I owe him a lot. Morai v'Rabotai, Sam Catton, this child Sam Catton that gave this speech 82 years ago, never changed. The same enthusiasm, love for the community, commitment to Torah or mitzvot, emunat hachamim, started here. Every time I spoke with him or him, remember Hacham Matlub Abadi, it took exactly 15 seconds to see him crying. He spoke with me about his hard times in life. He lost children in a very early age and it hurt him a lot, all his life. Eddie left him too early. He lost his wife, his dear wife. But when he spoke about Hacham Matlub Abadi, when he spoke about the Hachamim, the emunat Hachamim that he had, the faith in Hachamim, love for Hachamim was second to none. The same child here continued till his last breath. Morai v'Rabotai, after 2 weeks that I came to this town, I didn't know what is the difference between P and Quinton. I got confused. I don't know the city. Sam already called me in, gave me orders. Told him it's hard for me, I don't know how to type. The next morning I had a type machine. And we started the project after project. Sidur Kol Yaakov had problems, and we had to re-edit it. Hakam, we have to make sure that people on Shabbat feel like in Gan Eden. How we'll do it? We are lost. Let's do something indirectly. I want a book that will have the Kiddush. Kiddush, my Kiddush. Everybody knows how to make Kiddush. Hacham, you don't understand American. You don't understand the community. You don't understand the young people. Make a nice book, Kiddush for Shabbat, for Rosh Hashanah, Mosai Shabbat. Make an introduction in Hebrew. We'll translate it. We'll decorate it. It's going to create a special atmosphere. We have to keep the people close to us. Then Shavuot, Azharot, Pesach, and the last project that was his dream of his life is the Sefer Birchot Shamayim. And we're about to, Bekarov, to print it out. Sam, if I was a little bit more concerned and took it a little bit more in your rhythm of working, we might have the book today already used by the people. But with a lot of work, and lately, Baruch Hashem, when I was in Eretz Israel, we brought the Askama from Chacham Ovadia, and his dear grandson, Morris, read it to him. And the praises Chacham Ovadia praised him is second to none. I want to tell you, for 21 years, every time I visited Eretz Israel and I went to my rabbi, he always asked me right away about two people. And when I left, it was sent regard to two people. One is Chacham Baruch, and the second one was Sam Catton. Always. Before the summer, Sam wrote a beautiful letter to the rabbi and had an unbelievable connection. Murad Rabotai. When we, the community today, closing a golden era in our community because Sam connected us to our past, our glorious past. We lost this year Chacham Baruch. We have to come together again, to be one, united. This was the goal of Sam all his life. And I must tell you, in the last few years, in his early age, in such a rich experience, all of a sudden, the old controversial topics that were around didn't bother him. He liked everybody. He didn't want to hear anything about nobody. He wanted the community to stay together. Because this is the secret of our surviving. If we are not going to do it, ba'avonot harabim, haz v'shalom, it's a big danger. Lately, Sam sent me a letter. I wish I brought it today here. And he wrote me a letter. Hacham, I'm very concerned about the ethical level of our community and the behavior of our youth. I don't like what I see in shuls. People become more vulgar, the language, the attitude. We have to do something. I want to print Pirkei Avot. This is what he had in his mind. Pirkei Avot, this Torah is our cure. He found a beautiful perush. Maybe we'll ask for permission to reprint it. And I want to print it and to distribute the book to the entire community for my own money. But promise me, Rabbi, when you call the schools, give them the books, each school, 200, 300, 500, whatever they need. But to promise me that once a week, every student will have a class with Pirkei Avot, with this perush. I love this perush. Take the book, go over it, and make sure that we're printed. Sam, here, Lineder, I promise you that we are weak. We don't have the strength that you had. But we'll get together, all those that appreciate your work. And as a token of appreciation, we'll continue your holy work to be Mezakeh Arabim. Your mind day and night was just how to bring the last one in the community that we don't see, to bring him closer to Borei Olam. Morai ben Rabotai, for years he was involved in any Kedushat and any activity of education. If it's in Magen David, Flatbush, Sha'ar Sion, Torah activity, Bate Midrashot, Hachamim in Eretz Israel, Hacham Eliyahu Shreiman used to speak about Sam Catton. He told me, Zeh Malach. And he had the zechut that the Gaon HaGadol Rabbi Yaakov Hillel visited him in Florida. Because always, Torah, no matter what kind of yeshiva you are, what is exactly your hashkafa, this should not has v'shalom separate, to have it separate between ourselves. The main thing is the same Gemara, the same words of Gemara, the same Shulchan Aruch, the same Harambam. And this is the legacy of Sam Catton. Ahava ve'achva shalom ve'ra'ut. And to remember that because of the great education that he got and was inspired by his Rabbi Chacham Alouf, This what kept him in a very advanced age. Think like a 12 years old boy here in Magen David and pray like a baby in front of Borei Olam. And have an emunah without question after Borei Olam, like a small baby. And he went through a lot. And he was challenged a lot. And he's living this world pure. מה ביאתו לעולם הזה בלא חטא, אף יציאתו אחרי ייסורים בלא חטא. יהי רצון שתהיה נשמתו צרורה בצור החיים. I must mention that I know the family, they're like my family. His son Harry, Diane, Frida, daughters-in-law, he told me, I don't have daughters, they're like my daughters, they're better than daughters, Rabbi, you're going to see. My daughters-in-law are better than daughters. And we saw it. Even after Eddie passed away, he felt he's going to Frida's house like Eddie's there. Nothing changed. More love, more care. The grandchildren, kullam ahuvim, kullam darurim, you were a source of pride to your grandfather, to following the tradition of our community, of our Gedolei HaChamim, of Aram Sova, Gedolei Chachmei HaSfaradim. You have love for Torah, you're supporting Torah institution, you're going to classes, you gave him life. If you could overcome all the challenges and suffering, is because you gave him strength. Now, Nishmato Tzura B'Sor HaHayim is going to watch you, pray for you, and you see much success continuing his legacy and his way. Amen ve'amen.
Imagine, if you will, the story according to the Midrash in this week's Parashah. Am Yisrael is at a crucial juncture. The Egyptians are in hot pursuit. There's no way for the Jewish people to go. Despair sets in, and death and destruction seem imminent. Yet the Midrash says that on the scene arrives one individual. Nahshon ben Aminadav, in faith, in total faith in God, matched only by his love for his people, sacrifices everything, shows the faith, jumps into the waters, and the waters scatter in the face of such a man. I stand here with mixed emotion and feeling in front of really what is an icon to me. Mr. Sam Catton, growing up in this community, although physically short, was a towering figure of mythical proportions. As a young child interested in learning, growing up in this community, the stories of Sam's faith, of his emunah, of his lack of compromise in religious commitment at a time when we lived in a different community, when it wasn't easy to find people who lived such an uncompromisingly religious life. Those stories served as an inspiration. He would unknowingly tell us the stories that would make him great. I remember sitting in his house and he would tell us about the community. And in all humility, while trying to cover up his own greatness, it shone through. His love for Klal Yisrael. I remember as a young student in some of the yeshivot, and we would turn to him whenever there would be issues for us to help, and he was right there. Whatever he can do to help, whatever I can do to make your life easier, you're studying Torah. He loved Talmidei Chachamim beyond belief. When maybe now it's 20 years ago, maybe 20 to 21 years ago, when a group of us began studying with our rabbi and teacher, Shimon Alouf, and we made our first little siyum in his house. The rabbi invited one balabayit, one person, and it was Sam. And he came, and we were misayim, and he sat with tears in his eyes. The words he spoke 21 years ago inspired us all. I can still hear his words and his call and his love of rabbis and of studying Torah. Those words still ring true in my ears. They inspired us to move. They inspired us to grow. I remember as I got older and we decided to go into Hinuch, into the community. And that's not an easy decision for a young man. The first one, and maybe the only one, who went out of his way. An elder in the community of mythic proportions. A person who I could stand and shake in front of. Who has done more than anyone else I can dream of. He came to me. He made it his business to call me and to come to me and says, what can I do to make it easy for you? I want you to know, here's my phone number. Whenever you need me, don't hesitate to call for help. This is my own personal connection. It's no need to go on, and I couldn't go on about all the projects that Mr. Sam Catton has sponsored. His love of the Sephardic tradition, his love of his heritage, his love of his Torah. Who in this community has not been affected by Mr. Sam Catton? Whether it's the Siddur or the Ma'azor he uses to pray. For the love of the Kahal, for the care of the community, for the welfare of the community that he was thinking about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He wasn't afraid to think out of the box. He wasn't afraid to say, this is what needed, so let's do it. He wasn't afraid to work. He was always thinking how we can make things better. Never satisfied with the way things were. Always to benefit others. His faith in God, his love of his community, his love of his rabbis, and his love of his Torah and his tradition represent something the community cannot easily replace in hundreds of people. Sam is a representative of the community. We can only turn to you now with thanks. We can only turn to you, everyone sitting here, can only turn to you with thanks and say thank you for a life of service. Thank you for dedicating your life to this community. Thank you for changing the face of the Brooklyn Syrian Jewish community. Thank you for building it. Thank you for creating its foundation. Where would we have been without the life of this giant? How much we owe him, we can never imagine. The rabbi mentioned the lessons we can learn from his life. That's the only thanks we can give him at this point. Learn the lessons of the life that he stood for. Take that message and live the life that Sam wanted us to live. Live committed to the Torah and mitzvot. Live a life where we love each other. Live a life where petty strife and silly differences don't mean much. It's what unites us. It's what holds us together that we can focus on in his merit. I want to just mention one thing. When you live a life of devotion like that, when you live to love others, you know you become loved in return. Sam was a loved person by all the community. But something that has been shocking me, many times we read books on mitzvot. I saw a living book on the mitzvah of kibud av va'em day in, day out, like I have never seen. Harry, you have lived up to the legacy, which is an impossible legacy to live up to, by showing the kibud av va'em that you have shown. I'm at a loss for words to see what you have done. Your wife Diane has been an amazing partner. Your sister-in-law Frida, all of you, and the grandchildren as well, have made the end of his life a pleasant life. A life you made every step of his life as pleasant as it could be. You have taught us all, the family has taught us all what it means to be mechabed horim, to be mechabed av. We thank you as well. Teheh nishmatot tzura b'tzor hayim. Amen.
ברשות הרבנים, בזמן שצדיק בעיר הוא הודה, הוא זיווה, הוא הדרה. יצא משם, פנה הודה, פנה זיווה, פנה הדרה. Our rabbis say a very nice thing. They say, at the time when a tzaddik is in a city, at a time when a tzaddik is in a community, he is their glory. He is their majesty. He is their beauty. When the tzaddik leaves the community or the city, the glory is lost. The majesty is lost. The beauty is lost. Our community has lost a pillar. Our community has lost one of its founders. The entire Jewish world has lost one of its supporters. We have lost a builder of schools. My grandfather was a founder of Magen David Yeshiva. He was extremely involved in Flatbush Yeshiva. We have lost a builder of shuls. Between the synagogues in New Jersey, Bnei Ishaq, we have lost a builder of institutions in our community, the Sephardic Community Center, amongst others. The entire Jewish world has lost a diamond through his involvement with world Jewry, wherever they are, UJA, Eretz Yisrael. My grandfather had a love for Eretz Yisrael and Am Yisrael like no other, like nobody that I have ever seen. Each one of his accomplishments were tremendous. What I'm reminded of is, during Pesach time at the Seder, we say the Mizmor Dayenu. And we say, if God would have taken us out of Egypt, that would have been enough. If my grandfather would have built a beautiful family based on Torah and Mitzvot, it would have been enough. If he would have built institutions in the community, it would have been enough. But the list can go on. And he did more and more and more. Some words that come to mind to describe my grandfather: dignified, regal, caring, sensitive, loving, selfless, respected. He was well respected by everybody who knew him. He had the respect of Talmidei Chachamim, an incredible amount of respect, and it was mutual. At the same time, with all of these fantastic and wonderful qualities, he never made anybody feel inferior. He was Sam. He was Sam. Humility. His anava was incredible. Last year, the Sephardic Angel Fund called him. They wanted to do an article on him. So they went, they interviewed him. I saw the proof of the article before it was published. And I called the person who was writing it. I said, you know, the article is fantastic, but it doesn't say anything about him. It doesn't say all of his stories when he was young. It doesn't say anything about his accomplishments. What's the matter? They said, you know, I tried. I tried and tried to sit. Tell me about what you've done. Tell me about this. Tell me about this. No, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the community. And I want to talk about my advice for the community. And I want to talk about what people need to do and what the lessons that they have to learn. So the article stood. It was all about, not about him. It was about us. My grandfather had an incredible amount of chesed. Everything he did was chesed. Back when he used to go for the winters to Puerto Rico, to go to the Carib Hilton, and he used to take care of the community there. They used to have a minyan that he used to put together and run 150, 200, 250 people. When I was dating my wife Cheryl, and I wanted to introduce her to my grandfather for the first time. So I brought her over to my grandfather and I said, Cheryl, this is my grandfather, Sam. He goes, your grandfather is the Chali man? Because every Shabbat in Puerto Rico, and I used to go with him to the bakery on Friday morning. We used to make sure everything's kasher, everything's okay, and he used to get cakes for everybody for Seudah Shlichit for Shabbat. And at the same time, there were so many families there, they were eating kosher food, Empire chickens, but the bread that the hotel was giving them had butter in it. So he would go and he would make a chali bread for every family, and Friday we would walk around from room to room, knock on the door and say, here is your chali. So my wife said, he's the chali man. That's just an idea of the chesed that he did. My grandfather understood like no other the importance of Jewish education. He was one of the founders of Magen David. He loved the direction that Magen David was taking. He saw the building last year and he couldn't stop talking about how wonderful it was. He was a pioneer of sending their children to yeshivot in our community. My father and my uncle Eddie, alav shalom, were the first students in yeshiva in our community. Now, I'm not talking about Talmud Torah. At that time there was Talmud Torah a few hours a day. But no, he said, my children have to learn Torah and have to learn in a yeshiva in a structured way. And he pioneered that, and look where we are today. And by the way, this sending them to yeshiva and Jewish education was at all costs. At the time, didn't have a lot of money, there was tuition, but it didn't matter. Every penny that he had went towards education. It's more important. My grandma Rea aleh shalom, waited to get a diamond ring till she was married for 40 years. No, I don't need the diamond ring. Send our boys to learn in yeshiva. He was a founder, as I said, of Magen David, along with Isaac Shalom, alav shalom. He was well known in the community for so many things, one of which, of course, is public speaking. How many times did he stand at this pulpit right here and speak to everybody? And with a majesty and a command that you couldn't imagine. Even later in life when we would tell him, Grandpa, maybe you shouldn't speak. Maybe it's too much for you. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. And amazingly, he gets up and the words coming out of his mouth were like diamonds, were like pearls. When Grandpa was about 65 years old, when most people retire, they go play golf, they go sit in the sun. That's when he said, okay, I'm ready to retire. So he started Sephardic Heritage Foundation. And he started publishing his books. And he did it 100% for the well-being and for the good of the community. I try to imagine over the last few days what he has given, what his books have given to this community. And I try and think, without his projects of his books and Sephardic Heritage Foundation, where would this community be? He practically single-handedly saved the Pizmonim. Where would we have Pizmonim if we didn't have the Red Pizmonim book? He single-handedly saved our Halabi prayers, our Syrian prayers. Let's think back 30 years ago. I just know from stories that have been told to me. What was it like to pray on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, Yamim Noraim, the most important days in the Jewish calendar, where the prayers go straight to Shamayim? And everybody had a different book, and nobody knew what was going on. And this one, page 32, page 87, nobody knew what was happening. And he saw the need, and he said, we must come up with books so that everybody will pray at the same time, on the same page, so that the prayers as a kahal, as a community, as a congregation together, can go straight up to heaven. So he started those projects. I forgot how many books there are. There's maybe 25 books, different publications, as Rabbi Alouf so beautifully mentioned, all for the good of the community. I try and think, how many prayers were made from his books? How many prayers will be made from his books? Every single prayer is for his zechut. Every prayer that we've made, every prayer that we will make, will take his neshama, take his soul higher and higher and higher. So then, he recognized, well, we're already on these shores, 3 generations, 4 generations, 5 generations. The younger generations do not know where they came from. And he understood, if you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going. So he made it his business to chronicle the history of our community. And he wrote 3 books. A man in his 90s wrote 3 books, explained to everybody the history of the community. And he said, every child in this community must have one of those books. So he sent them out for free. This is at 95 years old. My grandfather had a difficult life. He was born in 1910 in Atlantic City. He had gone through many, many obstacles in his life. Business obstacles, started off with nothing, became a success. As Rabbi mentioned, he lost 2 young babies early in his life. My Uncle Eddie Alav Shalom, which was a tremendous blow for him. My Grandma Ray Aleh Shalom. Yet, through his 95 years on this earth, he enjoyed life. All of the challenges that were thrown his way, he turned them into opportunities. I asked him once, Grandpa, all these things you've accomplished, how did you do it? First thing out of his mouth, must give credit to his wife. Everything that I've accomplished in my life, she is a full partner. He used to say mother. Mother is a full partner. If I have ever met two people who were soulmates, they were my grandmother and my grandfather. They were a match made in heaven. And now they're reunited there and praying for all of us. After she passed away, my grandfather really was never the same. At the mere mention of her name, he would break down in tears. How was their marriage so good? We asked him that question as well. Two things. Number one, mutual respect. And number two, he said the secret of marriage is we never went to sleep angry at each other. We never went to sleep angry at each other. We made a deal when we got married. Somebody's got to say something. And what he said, of course, in his good humor, and it was usually me. When my grandmother was older and she was not feeling well and she had very bad arthritis, I walked into the house one day and he was taking dinner out of the oven. Grandpa, what are you doing? Let the housekeeper take the food out of the oven. Let her serve you. You shouldn't be... He said, David, listen to me. For many, many years, Mother, as he called her, Mother served me. Now, she can't do it anymore. It's my turn now to serve her. His books that he wrote were named Men of Faith and Vision. However, I know of no man who had more faith and more vision than Grandpa Sam. An example. Several years ago, when my Uncle Eddie passed away, they got up from sitting Shiva. The day that they got up from sitting Shiva, my grandfather, with all of his emunah, all of his faith, turned to my grandmother and said, Ray, for 9 months, the time that he was sick, for 9 months we cried every day. No more crying. No more crying. We have a few years left, and then we are going to be reunited with Eddie. And we must spend that time here enjoying the blessings that God has given us. We have a beautiful son. We have beautiful grandchildren. We have beautiful great-grandchildren. We have a beautiful family. We must take the time that we have left and spend it enjoying them. And then we will be reunited when God feels the time is right. There's a Mishnah, the last Mishnah in Masechet Kinim, reads like this. Rabbi Shimon ben Akashya Omer, Ziknei Am Haaretz, Kol Zeman Shemazkinin, Datan Mitarefet Alehem. אבל זקני תורה אינן כן, אלא כל זמן שמזקינים דעתן מתיישבת עליהם. The Rabbi Shimon ben Akashya said, elder people who are not of Torah, as they grow older, their mind and their wisdom gets mixed up, gets all over. However, an older person who is a person of Torah, as they get older, their wisdom gets sharper. Their wisdom gets clearer. I don't know any other Mishnah that describes my grandfather more than that. My grandfather had foresight. He had what's called in Hebrew Chokhmah and Bina. Chokhmah means wisdom. Bina means that you could understand something from another thing. He applied these to his entire life, to his personal life, to his business life. And amazingly, as was mentioned, to the end, he's looking at, his mind was sharp. Even last week, when I was down in Florida on Wednesday, at his bedside, and I was on one side of his bed, my cousin Sammy E was on the other side of his bed, and we said, Grandpa, it's time to pray mincha. We know he knew what was going on, but he was extremely weak. His reaction was, he took the blanket and he pulled it up over his body to make sure that he's properly covered. And we started to pray mincha, and my cousin Sammy had a sidur, one of his sidurim in his hand. And with all the strength that he had, he reached up, he grabbed the sidur, he put it in his lap, and even though he couldn't see it and he couldn't look at it, started turning the pages. This is clarity. Clarity till the end. Clarity of knowing what is important. Clarity of knowing how important tefillah is. And his clarity wasn't only limited to Torah. Without a high school diploma, he knew everything about everything. And he could talk to you about everything, about politics, about trivia, about history. And this clarity gave him special strength. He suffered a heart attack and stroke last Sunday, and his strength gave him 1 week to give time to all of his grandchildren to come and visit him, including his granddaughter Rochelle, who traveled in from Israel, and we were all able to say goodbye. Besides my parents, there were two people in my life who really shaped me. The first was my Uncle Eddie Alav Shalom, who was my mentor. And the second, my grandfather, who was my idol. Both were my best friends. And I thank you again and again for all of the priceless gifts that you've given me. In the last few years, my grandfather and I have gotten even closer, if it was possible. We would speak 4 or 5 times a day. We learned together. He was always there for advice. He was always there for blessings, personal advice, business advice. And his answer to me whenever I had a question always was, Ve'asita kehokmatecha. I trust you. I trust your judgment. And that meant everything to me. Grandpa, I hope that I can live up to your expectations and be even just half of the man that you were. I asked him once, Grandpa, with all of your accomplishments, what are you most proud of in your life? He said, I'm most proud that my family is one. My family is together. That my daughters-in-law are like daughters. That my grandchildren are not like cousins, they're like brothers and sisters. He said, I'm proud that my entire family is observant, that we follow Torah u'mitzvot, that we are good people, that we are good Jews, that we are all dedicated to each other. I also asked him, Grandpa, what is your advice to us? What is your advice to the entire community? He said, to follow in the footsteps of your parents and grandparents. I cannot end without saying to my father, it had been difficult, I know, taking care of Grandpa. You gave him a tremendous amount of respect, and he gave it back to you. You have gone over and above, and you should be blessed. You should live a long life. To my mother, Diane, and my Auntie Frida, who were like daughters to him, always together, so they should be mentioned together. You took Grandpa into your homes in difficult times. The mitzvah that you did was tremendous. And I know that he appreciated it beyond what you can imagine. To his grandchildren, Sammy and Frida, Rochelle and Rabbi Selim alav shalom, my wife Cheryl and me, Melanie and Stefano, Raquel and Ezra, Sammy, Ian, Shirley, Morris and Michelle. He was proud of each of every one of us. We were the light of his eyes, our children were the lights of his eyes, and we gave him happiness towards the end of his life. He's now reunited with his soulmate, my Grandma Ray, with my Uncle Eddie, with his parents, Habib and Sarah Catton, his brothers, Joe, Mo, Isaac, his sister Amere. And we ask, Grandpa, that you pray for us. Tehi nishmato tzedrat tzedrat hayim.
Dear Grandpa, I'm sitting at home looking at you straight in the eyes. I just left you a few nights ago to come home to my family. I had such a hard time leaving you. I cried the whole way home. You were always there for me. You were my strength and you were my protection. My family and I had the zechut to be with you during one of your last Shabbatot. They were so comfortable around you. You made us all feel like we were living at home. You were known as Papa Sam to my daughters. I had the zechut to take care of you when you got sick. I took you to the hospital and sat by your side. Even though you couldn't speak, we were able to communicate heart to heart. We sang together, prayed together, and laughed together. I kissed you on Tuesday morning and promised I would come back and see you. I never thought that you would leave us. I never thought that I would ever have to make this speech. Oh, Grandpa, I miss you. I love you so much. My knees are weak and I have a pit in my stomach. All I can do is stare at you through this picture. I keep wanting to cry, but your loving smile prevents me. You look so perfect, so happy, so content. You live your life to the fullest. 95 years of dedication to your family and community. You were a true man of faith and vision. All you cared for was to make your family happy. I'm looking at pictures of you right now of our Israel bar mitzvah trips. You were always posing with Grandma Ray. You were the perfect couple. You cared for her more than you cared for yourself. You have been without her for over 3 years now, but now you can reunite with her in Shamayim. Literally, a match made in heaven. I remember all the fun we would have in your house on Shabbat and holidays, all the grandchildren together having pillow fights, and those trips to Puerto Rico at the Carib Hilton. You were the first one to organize minyanim and learning during vacations. In the last few years, how can we forget the Pizmonim singing that lasted hours in the Sukkah? You loved orchestrating and putting your hands up during Ehzeh benoam panecha el nisabaram. You loved hearing us say an extra long Ma'uzi. Oh, Grandpa, we're going to miss all the good times. People tell me that you were the pillar of the community, but you weren't. You were its foundation. Your lifelong dedication to the community was unparalleled. You were always seeking for their welfare and bringing them merit. Kol ha'osek besorchei sibur, HaKadosh Baruch Hu meshalem secharam. Whoever is involved in the needs of the sibur, Hashem pays their reward. You were called by the greatest rabbis in the world, amongst them Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu Shelita, Baal HaSefarim, the man of the books. You always had great joy and happiness when you heard this. I remember when I was in Israel for the year studying at BMT, when Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu came to greet us. I rushed over to him after his speech and I said, Derishat Shalom, Mehasaba Shelisem Catton. He looked at me, he smiled, and he said, Oh, Baal HaSefarim, what would we do on the high holidays without your Mahzorim, or on weekdays without the Kol Yaakov Sidur? or on the Yamim Tovim without your Kiddush book, or on Shabbat at a Sebit without your red Pizmonim books? Who else can tell us stories and record them in books about our community's history? You were the last link to our past. Hashem granted you and I the opportunity to get even closer over the last few years, getting involved with you on your latest projects. The Berachot book stands to be the jewel of your life. You received approbations from Gedolei Hador, including Chacham Obadiah Yosef Shelita and Sephardic Chief Rabbi of Israel, Rabbi Amar Shelita. You were titled by both of them, Gedidenu Hayakar V'Hana'ala, Doresh Tov Le'amo, Bar Abhan Ubar Urian, Haggabir Hammefoar, Yirat Hashem Hi Osaro. Our dear and esteemed friend, a person who always seeks the welfare of his people, from an honored family and a learned man, a man of exemplary generosity. The fear of heaven is his treasure. You told me last week, those are all lies. I'm no learned man. How anav of you, Grandpa. I regretted all week the fact that you may not get to see the finished products. I was so excited to see the big smile on your face when they came out. It kept me going, and it gave me the hizuk to continue as fast as possible. You planned a big party for Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the night of the Tawahid at Ahaba Ve'ahva. You said you would drink arak with Rabbi Alouf, with Rabbi Dweck, and with myself. You were a quarter of the way done with the introduction, and you read it to me last Friday night at the Shabbat table. You were so proud. I was so proud to be your grandson. We will still finish the book. Don't worry. We will still have that party. I promise you. I know you will be with us smiling down from Shamayim, and that makes me so happy. We have work to do, Grandpa. We need you. Who's going to call me 15 times a day and push me to keep things moving? Who's going to demand to have me interrupted from my sales appointment in the showroom? Who's going to raise money for our Sephardic Heritage Foundation? Without you, we would have no new book covers. Without you, we would have no foundation. It was the love of your life. You don't know what you have until it's gone. My cell phone rang the other day. Grandpa Sam. But it wasn't you. They were calling me from your cell phone. I pray that Hashem will give me the strength to follow in your footsteps. Like I told you in the hospital, and I'll tell you again, I have learned most of what I know from you, and I am ready to continue your legacy. We are all ready to continue your legacy. The grandchildren are already talking about the next project you were working on, Pirkei Avot. You wanted so badly for the children in our community to learn the proper midot and derech eretz. It was so important to you. It will get done, because whatever you worked on got done. Anshe emunah abadu, ba'im bechoach ma'asehem, giborim la'amod ba'peretz, dohim et ha'gezerot, hayu lanu lechoma u'machzeh beyom za'am. Men of faith have vanished. Those who come with the strength of their good deeds. Men who are strong enough to stand up to any breach and repel the harsh decrees. They were for us a wall of protection and a refuge in times of rage. The tefillah goes on. Sa'u hemma limnuhot, azebu otanu la'anachot. They have departed to their resting places and abandoned us to lament. Grandpa, you were a true man of faith and vision. You were for all of us, and especially me, a wall of protection. During your last days, I took your hands, I placed them on my head, and I asked you to bless me. After 5 minutes, I looked at you right in the eyes, and you gave me a huge smile. Thank you, Grandpa. You will always be my strength and my wall of protection. David HaMelech writes in Sefer Tehillim, Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai, mi yagur be'aholecha, mi yishkon behar kodshecha, holech tamim ufoel sedek, vedober emet bilbabo. לא רגל על לשונו, לא עשה לרעהו רעה, וחרפה לא נשא על קרובו. A psalm by David. Hashem, who may reside in your tent? Who may dwell in your holy mountain? One who walks wholeheartedly with you, does what is just, and speaks the truth in his heart, whose tongue does not slander, who has done no evil to his fellow man. Grandpa, you loved peace. You chased after it all your life. You were a true man of chesed. You exemplified the saying, V'ahavta l're'acha kamocha. Just last Motzai Shabbat, you were watching a show about the Holocaust on the History Channel, and you couldn't stop crying and crying. You get so emotional. You looked at me and you said, Morris, do you know what I did to help the Jews get out of Europe? I got hundreds and thousands of Jews together at Union Square to protest and to raise money to help them get out. You also helped smuggle guns into Israel pre-1948 for the Haganah. Nobody knows this. You were a true Zionist. You loved Israel more than anyone. Every time you heard the Hatikvah, you would burst out into tears. Grandma Ray sat by your side and was your biggest supporter all these years. You always put her on a pedestal, no matter what you were involved in. Grandpa, I'm going to miss the talks that lasted hours about our community 50 to 60 years ago. I knew these old-time stories that none of my friends knew. We could have sat for hours and it felt like just a few minutes. The stories of your early years in Atlantic City with Rabbi David Lanyado alav shalom, and the Talmud Torah you opened over there. The stories about your childhood in this very place, Magen David Talmud Torah, the Junior League, with Chacham Alouf Abadi, Chacham Moshe Tawil, Rabbi Kilzi, Rabbi Yaakov Kassin Alehem Shalom. You were Chacham Alouf prize student. You had a special relationship with him. You loved each other. He was a father to you, and you were a son to him. Now you can reunite with him and learn with him in Shamayim. There wasn't a person in our entire community that didn't have a connection with you. How could they not? Every time you met someone and asked for their name, you would give them their whole life story and family history. You knew things that no one knows today. People would come up to you, especially in shul or on the street, to shake your hand and to hear from you. I remember always wheeling you in the streets. It took us a half hour to get from Auntie Frida's house to my parents' house during the high holidays. And it's only 3.5 blocks away. People would cross the street special to see you and to say hello. You greeted them with a huge smile, open arms, and tzeber panim yafot. From the rabbi to the janitor, you treated everyone with respect and dignity. People would always continue to walk alongside your wheelchair while we went. They walked us all the way home. They never wanted to say goodbye. You made them feel so happy, so warm, and so comfortable. Grandpa, you made me feel the same way all my life, that I didn't want to leave you on Tuesday morning at the hospital. How could I? I was so happy to be around you. You made me feel so warm and forget about any concerns or problems. All I wanted to do was stay hand-locked together forever. Your hands were so warm, they were so cozy. Your face lit up like an angel. Grandpa, to me, this isn't the end of your beautiful life. It is merely the beginning of your legacy. I thank Hashem each day for the close relationship we had. You were the glue that kept the family together all these years. You lived a life full of Torah, mitzvot, and gemilut chasadim. You were a true tzaddik. You were a true chacham. You were a wonderful husband, father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. I know that you wouldn't want us to cry your loss, but it's so hard. You would want us to learn from your life and continue what you have started. You gave us all the tools to do this, Grandpa. Grandpa, you don't have to call anymore. I know you'll be watching us over in Shamayim and guiding us from Shamayim. Grandpa, I won't let you down. We won't let you down, Grandpa. We miss you and we love you. Tehi nishmato serura b'sorah hayim. Amen.
והחוכמה מאין תימצא באיזה מקום בינה אשרי אדם מצא חוכמה באדם יפיק תבונה מרב טובך אשר ספנת לירך פעת לחוסם בך נגד בני אדם מה יקר חסדך אלוהים ובני אדם בצל כנפיך יחס עיון ירויון מדשן ביתך ונחל עדניך תשכן טוב שמי שמן טוב מיום המוות מיום היוולדו מנוחה נכונה בישיבה עליונה תחת כנפי השכינה במעלת קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מאירים ומזהירים וחילוץ עצמים והכפרת אשמים והרחקת פשע והקרבת ישע וחמלה וחנינה מלפני צור שוכן מעונה וחוקה טובה לחיי העולם הבא שם בישיבת נר השם השם הטוב שלמה בן חביבה רוח אדוני שלמה בן שרה רוח אדוני ייתן חיינו בגן עדן בכלל הרחמים והסליחות וכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן
יתקדש שמי רבה לעם דיברה חנותך וימליך מלכותך וישמח כל קרב ויקרב משיחך וחייכון מיומכון חיידכו בית ישראל בעגלה בזמן קריב אמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם עמי עמיה מברך تعال تترمم تدسي بتدى بتعلي بيتلا شمهت كلشا بريخو يا عيلة مكول بخاتات شيراتات تشبحتا بني حماتات دامرات بعالما بيرنو أمين
Everybody has to forgive me for the last time. Sitting will be 2044.
East 3rd Street, every S&T. Shahari, 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Minha, 5 o'clock.
Please, we need some guys to come with us to be taharim in the car. Yeah, we have a limousine, we have 2 limousines. Please.
دول عصابة وضع الياس ما يجب تبقى حقوق السنة تلقاتي معولة بكشراب ماي تريد العولة الضال ماي متى بدنا
Catton.